Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the TinFoil Hat. All right, welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and I hope my paranormal junkies are doing good tonight, y'all. Boy, do we got some news, some big news. I don't know if you guys have heard, if you're following like I am, but in the UFO world, we just heard that MUFON has been hacked. Yes, the database has been hacked. We don't know who done it. Was it the government? Was it some 13-year-old who got tired of playing Call of Duty in his basement and got bored? Or was it aliens? I don't know. Who knows? But I'll tell you what, if you go over to the experiencersupport.org, our boy Ryan Stacy has put up an article discussing it, so you can look into some more info about it yourself. But definitely interesting news in the UFO world. MUFON's database has been hacked, y'all. All right, well, I hope my paranormal junkies are doing well, and I hope you are keeping the paranormal normal for me, because you're going to be excited about tonight's guest. Tonight's guest, not only are they a former employee of the Department of Defense, but also a lifelong contactee of extraterrestrial beings. Let's get a big welcome for tonight's guest, Nancy Thames. How you doing, Nancy?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Doing well, and welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. Now, I gave you a little brief intro, but if you don't mind, let everybody know a little bit more about you.
All right. My name is Nancy Thames. I am a lifelong contactee with interdimensional beings and positive extraterrestrials. And my first conscious memories go back to when I was 2 and 3 years old, and it has progressed all through my life up into the present. I have face-to-face contact and many, many experiences, and just learning and being educated on why it was happening to me, the purpose of it, and the reason why we are going through this ascension, and how it all plays together and works together to help humanity.
Now, okay, so this, first of all, you are a very interesting person. A lot of with the information, just, I mean, your whole bio and stuff is really cool. Now, you started off like, this is stuff that you were experiencing as a small child.
Up until the present day, but my first conscious memories are from 2 to 3 years old. And it was very pleasant experiences. I've always had grays, 3 grays. They always travel in 3, and they're always who comes down to get me, take me to craft. Once I get on craft, then I'm around other extraterrestrial beings and interdimensional beings. And then when it's time to return home, they'll use these same 3 grays. And I'm bonded with the female. One is a female. The other 2, I'm not really bonded with, but they always travel in 3s. But one, she is a female, and she is a brownish gray color. And she's always who does the legwork for them. And I have found out that she is a hybrid that was designed by the tall grays and the interdimensionals. And they created her with these other ones that travel with her. She's, like I said, about 4 foot tall, and they created her because the extraterrestrials and interdimensionals are not compatible with the density of Earth. So in order to be able to do the back and forth work, they created these hybrids to do that.
Okay, let me back up because I kind of want to. So you started having, you started seeing these beings whenever you were experiencing these beings when you were just a small child. Now, were these? Was this something that you just always knew, or was this something that you had to go back and kind of almost like break through to have this memory? Was this like a progressed memory type of thing?
I always knew. And when I was young, I had no brain barriers. I had no reason to be scared. So it was all fun and games, and they made it very, very fun. Even if they sensed a little anxiety within me, they have the technology capability of changing scenery around you, or taking an image that I felt comfortable with from my mind, and I would see them as maybe a character in a book that my mother had been reading to me, a storybook. So,
so now,
they don't change into this character, but they take the image, and then that's what I see them as.
Okay, now, so this didn't scare you as a child whenever
Not as a child, no. And when I got to be a teenager and I started reading books and being told not to talk about these kind of things, that people did not like to talk about it, and people would consider you crazy if you did. So I had been told that all along, even from when I was very little. Go back to bed, you're just having a dream, kind of brush it off type thing. Like children do experience things, and your parents deal with it the best way they can and know how. So, but as I got older,
you would tell your parents that you saw these things.
Yes, I would tell them that there's little beings in my room, and they would say, "Oh, that's funny. Go back to bed."
Well, I find that's interesting. One thing, Nancy, because me and you both are from the same area in the United States, and it can be very Bible Belt, very old school religion. Were your parents like that? Was there any?
They are not Bible Belt, but my father was in a person. He was a public figure within the community. So what we did, and what people thought of us, was of grave importance. So I was told, you do not talk about these things at school or to other family members, period. You do not talk about these things. And that even though my family, we might have discussions, not necessarily about my experiences, but about beings from, we're not being the only ones in the universe and things of this nature. It was okay for us, but it was not okay to discuss this outside of the house.
So it was kind of like the family secret. We didn't talk about this.
Well, they didn't take me serious. I think they thought that I was actually having dreams, or that's the impression I got. So as I would go in and tell them, one time it was around Christmas time, and I told my mother that I had gotten a little overnight suitcase, a little small suitcase for Christmas. And I told her, I said, I want to hide my suitcase. And she's like, why? I said, because they're going to want my suitcase. It's really cool. They're going to want my suitcase, and it's just the perfect size for them. And my mom's like, you don't have to hide your suitcase. I said, well, I'm going to put it under the bed and hide it. And, and she just thought it was funny, but I was serious as a heart attack at the time, so, and I recall all these things, and it's just, they just thought that I was having some kind of silly dream or something, and they just brush it off. So, but when I got, a teenager, and then I started seeing things on television, and I started like reading books, and I would, when we would go to a bigger city, I grew up in a small town, but especially around holidays and things like that, we would go to bigger cities to shop. And my father liked bookstores, so I would creep around looking for areas that might have something about this kind of things going on. And, being in the Bible Belt, really there wasn't anything much to read. They just don't carry books like that, in your public libraries, or in that just doesn't happen in the South at all. So, I just suppressed it because I was told not to, and I did what I was told, because I understood, that there were certain things that we just could not discuss. So I just left it alone and suppressed this for a very, very long time. So when I got in my 20s, I got married, and I was still having these experiences, but they were changing. They were giving me more of a conscious memory time. And I figured out that when I would experience anxiety or fear, because I knew before they were coming that they were coming. I could feel it all in
Now I've heard that that's a common thing with people who have experiences. They know when it's about to happen, almost kind of a thing.
Yeah. And so I knew.
Okay.
So, and that sort of sets your frame of whether you're going to be okay with it, or if you're start to feel anxiety. And what happens is when they get there, when I got to that point of being a little frightful of the experience and not understanding it, being a teenager, I would keep my eyes closed. But what they would do is they would they had a instrument, and they would hold it in their hand, and they would take it, and it would not touch my body, but they would take it, and it would be like a scan from head to toe, toe to head, several times back and forth. And what that did was it created a vibration, and my body would start vibrating. And then after a period of time, my body would start to float up off the bed. And at this point, if my eyes were closed, I would look down, and I would see I was physically floating up and holding the hands of the female gray. And this was not an out-of-body experience. This was not a dream.
This was actually really taking.
It was physically happening to me. And
let me ask you this, Nancy. Let me ask you this real quick, because you said you got married, correct? Yeah. Did your husband know about this before you got married? Is this anything that you discussed with him?
I told them, but I don't think they really believed me. I don't think they did, because
that's such an awkward thing in a way, because this isn't an everyday thing that people,
it's not.
I got a secret to tell you, honey. I got a tattoo here, and also
what's really strange about it is that I've literally been in the bed with an ex-spouse. So and they never even were fully aware. You could say their name, you could do whatever, but they were put in a sleep paralysis is what they do to them.
Okay.
So, but for me, when they were doing this frequency, what they were doing is we live in a 3D world. So we vibrate at a very low frequency, being a human being. So what they were doing, and I didn't know this for a very long time, but they were changing my vibrational frequency to match their frequency. That way I could go through the wall. I could go through the window or through the door. And I never understood that until much later on, how they were doing that. But later they explained to me that they were changing my frequency.
Okay. So I want to do this. You as a teenager, you started putting two and two together. This is what's going on. This is who's been visiting me. These are things that's happening. And this is something that you just kind of accepted, and like, this is just my life. Okay. Yeah. And it's, and of course, this isn't the kind of things that you just go up to anybody and have a conversation with, because of,
No.
they think, oh, this person must be nuts or something, so of course you don't do stuff like that. But when you said whenever you got married, and by this time you've had these experiences to where this isn't in my head, I actually know this is going on.
Yes.
Did your husband and did they ever come around to believing you, to saying, wow, something's going on here? Or do you think it was something that was just always like, bah,
I think it was more like that, to be honest. They didn't mind me talking about it, but I don't know that I don't think if they had experiences, I did not know it. And we would never had an experience together. But so as I got older, and this continued to happen to me, and I became a mother, and I had two young boys at that time. They were very young, but of course they're older now. But we were on a vacation at the Marriott Hotel at Key West, right on the beach. And so I feel that they're coming, and I raise up in the bed and I look, and three grays appeared there into our room. And they were not the same ones that come for me. These grays were very short, 3 foot tall, and they were wearing robes, all the way down, robes, and had very high collars around the neck. And they were of more of a gray color, a kind of a metal gray color. So when I sat up, one of them came towards me, took his hand, and on my heart side, left-hand side, pushed me back down to the bed and told me telepathically, this is not about you. Go back to sleep. And so he put me in a sleep paralysis, because when he did that and the other two started to go around to the other side of the bed, I realized, and he said, this is not about you. I realized they were there for my two children. So I filled with anxiety and was very upset. And they put me in a sleep paralysis, and I could not move. I could not speak. I could not do anything. And nobody, my ex-husband was asleep, not, just sleeping, unaware of any of it. And the children were asleep, but they went over, and then through the corner of my eyes and stuff, I could see them getting them up and taking them. So then I did go to sleep, or either they blacked me out, one of the two.
Well, let me ask. That's a very interesting where we're at there. That's very interesting. But I do want to. We got Ryan Stacy has a question for you, Nancy.
Okay.
He wanted to know: did you physically go through the door, or did you visualize going through?
No, I went through the door. They totally took this scanner like thing and would go back and forth, and my body would start vibrating at a very fast, very unfamiliar feeling that was not unpleasant. It was just different. It was just very high frequency vibration. And then I would just start elevating. My body would be elevating, and then I would be holding her hand, and then we would proceed up through the ceiling. And I can remember like being kind of like halfway through and like, looking at her and questioning, how is this possible? And to be honest, she didn't, at that particular time, she did not answer me. That's one thing about I am bonded with her.
Female.
She's a female. Yeah. And I'm bonded with her, but they're very task oriented. There's no negotiation. There's no, they're not robots. Most people think that they are. They're biological, and they are a hybrid, and they were made by the tall grays and the interdimensional to do this back and forth. And they created them so that their DNA would be more compatible with the density of Earth and, coming back and forth. So we are bonded, and I have love for her, but she's not, and I look at her as a ET mother kind of, but it's because she's actually been with me since birth, and I'll explain all that in a minute.
Well, let's move back to the point to where they said this isn't about you. They go over to your kids.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as a mother, you had to have some type of
I was
mama bear syndrome.
I was very upset because I knew it was happening to me, and there was nothing I could do about it. But then to come to the realization that this is not just about me and it involves my children, that was very, very upsetting, very upsetting. So the next morning we all went to breakfast, and I asked them, because when I woke up, they were back in their bed and they were fine. And then we all got up and got dressed and then went to the restaurant to eat breakfast. And I asked them if they had any strange dreams or anything they'd like to talk about. And they were just continued to eat and just looked up at me like, like, why are you asking, kind of thing. And so I left it alone. So I didn't say anything. I left it alone because either they didn't have the conscious memory of it, or either they didn't want to talk about it. And I just left it alone. So when I got back home, I sat down on the floor and I started meditating. And I created what I called a safe space around me, meaning that I sat down on a carpeted floor, and then I took my fingers and formed a circle around me, because I felt like I was creating a safe place. And I was meditating with full intention, using my brain muscle as much as I could, pure intention directed straight towards them, and asking them, why is this all happening? Why are my children involved? Why? What is the purpose of this? Please explain to me. Please, face-to-face contact, explain to me. I need to know. And so I went to bed, and then later on, the Grays did come for me, and they took me before a group of elders. And the elders were interdimensional beings, and they were of different races, and there were many of them. It was like a council or a group. And so I went before them.
And this is why you were meditating? This is what you saw while you were meditating?
No, I meditated and asked for them to have face-to-face. I asked for them to give me answers. And then I went to bed. And then they came for me later on. Hours later, they came for me and took me to craft and took me before a group of elders. And these elders were of many different races, and they were all very, very tall, 7 to 8 foot different. Then they were not all the same race. They were all different. None of them look alike or anything. So anyway, I asked them, why is this happening to me? What does this mean? And they told me that I had made an agreement before being born as a human being. I had made an agreement to come here and be here at this time for humanity, to help humanity to understand why they are here now, the purpose of them being here, clear up misinformation, clear up the fact that there's some things that people have been told that simply aren't true, and things like that. And that I would not remember this right away. That and I said, well, I don't remember any of this. So then they showed me a vision of myself, and I was sitting in the vision. I'm sitting there waiting as an etheric type being, and I'm having a communication with the interdimensionals, and they're saying it's time for you to have your human experience. And when you it will be many years after you were born before you will ever remember any of this. When you go there, you will not remember this. And we will be visiting you throughout your life and helping you to remember and understand your choices and why you came here. And that's basically what happened to me. And it took a lot of years for me to even understand. And I've had many personal things happening that were not pleasant, were not good. And I've had a lot of beautiful things happen. And whenever I would have what I considered a very traumatic experience in my life, for one, I went through 2 divorces. So, you know, they would come to me and they would say to me, if this ever gets to be too much for you, you can always come home. And to be honest with you, never really resonated with me completely. I did understand they were saying that I could leave. I didn't necessarily know what that all involved, but I always said I want to stay here because I was a mother at this point, you know, a mother.
So are they saying, like, did you come from their dimension, their area, or is this somewhere that we all go somehow? We go to another dimension, or?
Well, as I got older, I finally was demanding more information, and they told me, you already know. And I'm like, I don't. But so anyway, long story short, it took a long time and I've had a lot of experience and things that they wanted me to learn and go through. But about 1.5 years ago, something like that, I woke up in the middle of the night and my body shot straight up into a sitting up position. And these huge surges went straight through my head all the way down to the torso. And then I would fall back and then it would pull me up again. And this happened 3 times. And I didn't know what in the world was happening, except that it was an experience that they had given me because all of a sudden, it was like everything in the room changed after I had completed that cycle. And then it was like I was spinning and going somewhere. And then I ended up in a room that I was unfamiliar with. And then it was like I walked towards the closet and then the closet turned into a craft. And it was just weird. And
everything was kind of like happening in front of you, transforming.
Yeah, in front of you. It was just very strange. But now I understand that they gave me a Kundalini awakening. And what they were doing is putting those surges through me to break up blockages or whatever. And then they were letting my subconscious open up into my human consciousness. And so when I went to them and asked them, is this what has happened? And they said, yes. And they said, now do you understand who you are? And do you understand what does this mean? And I said, I was an extraterrestrial. And they said, yes.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, Nancy. Well, actually, we've got a question here from Liv Light for you. Liv wants to know, did they ever explain what the purpose of no memory, no recall serves as humans in regards to the interdimensional worlds?
They don't make those decisions about what human beings experience. We are here on free will. So most extraterrestrials and interdimensionals, the positive, what I call the positive extraterrestrials, honor our free will, and they will not cross over the cosmic realm boundaries of interfering with us. They're limited as to certain things that they can do. So that's another reason why they wanted me to be here, is to explain that the extraterrestrials, one race of grays, there's many different races of grays of many different heights and colors, but there's one race that has in the past worked with government, and they did genetic experiments on human beings. And I call them negative because they are not demonic, but they are self-serving, only interested in their need, have no interest in humanity or the effects of an abduction, how the effect that mentally how it affected a human being or any of the outcomes. They could care less. They were doing their task that they decided they wanted to do, and they did not care. So, but when they started doing that, they were excommunicated by the positive and the interdimensional. So most grays have what we call a collective consciousness, but the simple fact that they crossed over the boundary with humanity, they were excommunicated, and they do not share the collective consciousness with the good, positive extraterrestrials.
So you're saying we've got there's good guys and there's bad guys.
Yes, but
just like in
guys.
real life here on Earth, here in this dimension, we've got good people and we got
the
bad.
ones that we were introduced to first were not the good guys. They're not demonic. They all have souls, and they all believe in a creator source. Creator source would be kind of like what we call our God, but they look at it quite differently than we do. They do not have all these man-made, made-up religions and all these different things. They believe the creator source is either male or female, and it is the creator of all universes and all galaxies. And because we are not alone, and we've never been alone.
Let me ask you.
Universe is teeming with life.
Let me ask your theory on this, because a lot of times they seem to always come to people while they're sleeping, and listen to kind of like what you said. It's like they kind of enter your consciousness first and then bring you into almost another real reality. Because what you said, look, I really experienced going through the door. I really experienced these things in like a real physical, tangible place. But so is it like at first? Maybe the reason why they show up while you're sleeping, because it's almost your consciousness is shut off to this reality, and is it maybe like a portal to somewhere else? Maybe
we have less boundaries. Dream state is a great way to approach humanity and human beings. So what I've figured out and what I've been told, or they can confirm, is when we experience it, all extraterrestrials, when they have a face-to-face contact with a human being, they are telepathic, and they do not have all these emotions that we have. Okay. We are very unique, very different. So whatever we feel as far as fear and anxiety, they feel it tenfold. They do not like this feeling at all. They do not know what to do with it. They do not experience these feelings in their world or their realm of living. So rather than deal with us being frantic and upset and all these things, they'll simply tap us on the forehead and put us in a trance-like functional state. So you're fully functional, but it's like you're in a trance. So it's kind of like you've had a sedated state without the sedation. They just simply do this, and that way you can have the full experience with them, and they can do their task at hand that they want to do, or in my case, teaching me things. I've never been abducted, and I was never part of a hybrid genetic program or anything like that. But
so they have told you that there are human hybrids walking around the planet today.
They did not come out and say that there are human hybrids walking on the planet today. What I know is that there were some created, but they would not be safe here on Earth. They would not be accepted. They would not be safe at all.
Nancy, why do you think? Why are they coming here? Why?
Oh, I know why. I know why. Well, there's a grave difference between the negative extraterrestrials and the positive extraterrestrials. The positive extraterrestrials, by cosmic law and us being here on free will, have always let us do our thing, make our own mistakes, fix our own problems. The negative ones work with different fractions of our governments and elites, people with a lot of money that did exchanges for technology, exchanges with them for different reasons, different things, but they all were self-serving, selfish, nothing to benefit humanity. So they sit on technology, they sit on a lot of things and traded out. And so our first taste of extraterrestrials really isn't the best taste, and it's also not the real. They're very small in number compared to all the positives and the interdimensionals. So what happens is when the interdimensionals and the positive realize that we are fixing to go through an ascension, we are waking up, we are reaching higher consciousness. And when we do this, that means that they can actually have a intellectual dialogue with us, and we understand they are not gods, they are not angels, they are simply beings billions of years ahead of us in evolution and way above us in technology. So they've just been waiting for us to reach this pivotal moment, and we are here. That's why they wanted me to be here. That's why I chose to be here. And I'm not the only one. There's a million others like me that have incarnated here to represent different races of extraterrestrials and interdimensionals to help humanity raise its frequency to become higher consciousness and go into the fourth dimension and on up further. So most people don't realize that the fourth dimension is not a physical place. These things are literally higher consciousness. So we as humans are evolving. We are going through an evolutionary stage, and we're all, not all at the same time, but it's slowly reaching out, and everyone is becoming more aware of the world around us and aware that some of our old ways we are simply outgrowing, and some of these systems of like our banking and pharmaceutical companies, certain things are breaking down and they will no longer serve us as we become of higher consciousness. So they basically have been waiting for us to wake up. And another thing too is like they see our earth as a loving, conscious being. So that was one thing that they wanted my son and I. They orchestrated us to go to Mexico back in August, September, and through that period of time, they wanted us to go down there and meet an indigenous tribe called the Zapotecs. And they wanted us to meet them because this tribe is as old as the Mayans and the Incas. And they were at their evolutionary stage of ascension and
so
reaching higher consciousness.
Okay. So you mentioned your son here. So I want to back up real quick. And earlier when you were talking about, like, you did ask your kids if they had an experience. So it turns out, did one of your kids remember this or have some type of?
They both do. But so, one is in tune with them as I am, and has downloads and has face-to-face contact with them. My youngest son, he's slower paced, and that's fine. Not everybody is on their own spiritual path and own way of doing this. And all of us have never pushed one another. It's not an easy this is not easy. And
so they told you. So they told you guys to go to Mexico and meet these indigenous people there in Mexico.
Yes, because they were on the verge of ascension and it collapsed because their younger generations basically abandoned their tribe, and they lived. It took us 3 hours to go up this mountain to where they were. And when we got up there, they were the most eco-friendly people I've ever seen in my life. And they grow what they need to eat, and they forage through the forest, and they collected rainwater. Some of them had electricity, some of them didn't. They had their own language. They didn't speak Spanish. They were different, and they had a real appreciation for nature and felt at one with nature and all things, all living beings. So they wanted us to meet them, for one, to understand that their younger generation abandoned them and their culture and their traditions because of their fascination with technology and materialistic things. So they wanted us to understand the impact of how technology, if used improperly, how destructive it can be to humanity. If we use it correctly, because they said we should consider it as a man-made tool. It was made and created by men, but we have to keep it as a man-made tool. It needs to be shared among all of humanity, not just used for certain elites or groups for them to benefit and the rest of us suffer. So, because we have been living a life of being manipulated, there should be no diseases. There should be no poverty. We should be using no fossil fuels, any of these things. And everybody knows this, but we have been manipulated and taken advantage of our lower consciousness by these elites, cabal, black hats. And then they went in cahoots with the negative extraterrestrials and got some of their technology, and they all.
And that's a common theory, Nancy. I got to say, like, one of the theories out there where they talk about why, if extraterrestrials have been coming here and they've got this technology, how come, we're not using it, or what would it do to the economy, the super rich? Well, you've got the people who, if the billionaires who are making money off of fossil fuels, and
right.
And if there's a way to travel much cleaner and quicker through their technology, well, that would take money out of the richest pot, the rich people's money. Right. That, I'm on that. I'm on board with that 100%. So, and a lot of times, technology is supposed to make life cheaper. But if you look, it's actually done the complete opposite for some.
That's because who's in charge and who's manipulating it to their advantage, not humanity's. So if we use it as the benefit humanity, we're waking up and we're going to realize that these old ways of being manipulated and controlled will no longer serve us. And that's why they're reaching out to humanity, because our government is controlled by these black hats elites. They put players in government and then manipulate them into doing what they want.
Well, I tell you what, this is what we'll do, because you do have a background working for the government, which is very interesting to me. So I tell you what, this is what we'll do, Nancy. We'll get over here to these messages. We'll take a little commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the Department of Defense and kind of your opinion about what's going on right now with the government. Okay. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be back with Nancy Thames.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property.
Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services.
Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, we're back here with our guest, Nancy Thames. And I tell you what, Nancy, this has been an exciting episode so far, but I've got to ask, now, in your bio, it says you are a former Department of Defense employee. And now, with everything in the news right now, which I know you see everything going on right now with the UFO disclosure and whatnot, what is your take on this? Is this us or is this them? What's going on?
Well, I did work for the Department of Defense and I did have a security clearance. And I was a dental assistant for the Army, but I was a civilian, and the Department of Defense put me with the Army. So anyway, it was great. I loved it. And I learned a lot about technology, which has helped me to use discernment about the mummies that were shown in Mexico. You know, I know how to read the scientific evidence because I worked with 3D imaging, and you cannot cheat or lie or put fake bones in, things like that. But anyway, one thing that I've learned is that a lot of people can work for the government. A lot of people can have a security clearance, but that does not necessarily make them an authority on a lot of these things that some people claim to have the knowledge about. And what I did was important, but it had nothing to do with extraterrestrials, and it didn't affect my experiences. I continued to have them. I did not tell them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, with you being around that type of environment, and now you see kind of like what's being reported, and of course, you know, like right now, Congress has never in the history ever have shown this much attention to UFOs, which is exciting, which is a very exciting time to be alive.
It is.
We have, I mean, you know, our Tim Burchett here right out of Knoxville.
Yes.
Who, you know, I've just recently became a big fan of his because he is taking charge of trying to get some answers. And I really love the way his stance on it is he's saying, look, I'm not trying to convince you to believe in this or believe in little green men or anything, but I want to know where the money's going.
Yes.
I mean, as taxpayers, we deserve to know a little something.
We should be getting the truth about things too.
Absolutely.
You know,
and there's things
to know who
flying
we
around.
are, what our true heritage is. We need to know the truth about our planet.
Well, let me ask you, because you were talking about the good, the good grays and then the bad grays. And, you know, the ones that are kind of like, here's technology for something that you can give us. Are the Tic Tacs and all the things that we're seeing zooming around our sky that our Navy's seeing, do you think this is the U.S. military's top secret stuff that we've learned from them, adapted technology from them? Or is this really, or is this them just kind of like saying, we don't give a damn if you see us or not. We're here doing it. What's your opinion?
I know for a fact that they send down probes. And when I say a probe, it wouldn't be like our little drones. It would be something, you know, and they're doing that for a lot of different reasons. And they have been here for a while. This is nothing new. And they are not hiding from anyone. The problem is we live in a 3D world. And so our eyesight is limited to be able to see what is actually in our skies. But if we use the night vision goggles with infrared military grade, you'll be able to see all kinds of things going on in the sky. And also in our whole solar system, in our whole galaxy, it's teeming with life, and there's life everywhere out there. And we are now going through our ascension. And as this happens slowly, we're going to start to see these things with our own eyes. These things, we're going to start to see them. So I think a lot of it, you know, they don't know how to tell humanity that the word technology is not even, they are billions of years ahead of us in every way. So there is no such thing as time. There is no such thing as currency. There is no such thing as the word technology. They're beyond all these things. There is our physics, our sciences. They do not apply. They are so far ahead, we cannot even comprehend. So for them to go home and tell their family members that we know absolutely nothing about this technology, how we can't even begin to replicate it. Their crafts are living beings. Their crafts are living beings. We'll never be able to fly one of their crafts because their craft are conscious living beings. And when an extraterrestrial is born and they procreate, they'll have at least one child offspring. And if that child, if he's designed to be a pilot, then he and a craft are bonded, just like I am with the gray that comes from me. There'll be no other gray that comes for me. And there'll be no other pilot for that craft. Only when they get in, he sits in and gets comfortable, and then they connect consciousness. And he simply tells the craft, he or she tells the craft where they want to go. And they go. And they don't use fuels like we use fuels. They don't use all these wonderful propulsion systems that we come up with. They simply use frequencies and higher consciousness and project these where they want to go, and they go. So this is a hard thing for them, one, to accept and explain to other countries. Who wants to be the first country to say, we can't touch this? We don't understand this. We can't begin to explain this to our humanity, or to show all the vulnerabilities that this displays. So yeah, it's a little bit scary, but the beautiful part is that the interdimensional and the positive extraterrestrials are not here to do anything other than assist humanity. They do not want to take over. They do not want to be in charge. They see us as children, and they played a part in our creation and a part of our planet's creation and all the things on our planet. And they see our planet and everything on it as a living being. Our trees are living beings. Our oceans, our water are living beings. Everything has a consciousness. The consciousness is not like a human consciousness, but it's still a consciousness. So, and they communicate. We don't see these things because we live in a 3D world, but our scientists already know that plants and things communicate, and our planet Earth. So when we started playing with weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons, that was a wake-up call to the rest of the universe, and take notice of us and realize we need to be watched. Because the problem is, because of the fact that our planet is a living being and has a consciousness, everything on it, all fauna, trees, everything, what we used to know but have forgotten is our connection with our planet, our connection with all things living on this planet, which also means our connection with the universe and everything under all that's made by the creator source. We are all connected. So what affects one affects all. So when we play with this technology and wipe ourselves out, what affects us affects all, because it creates havoc, the balance of our nature, the balance of and it ripples out into the universe and creates havoc and terrible things, because we are all connected. We are all one.
And I can totally get on board with everyone being connected. I'm a firm believer in that too.
So that's
I'll
why
tell you
I'm fascinated.
Liv Light has another question here for us. Liv asks, does decreasing their frequency to access the third dimension cause them illness?
I know it's uncomfortable to them. I don't, to be honest, there is no such thing as illness. They are, and when you reach that stage of evolution, there is no disease at all. There is no disease. There is no negativity.
You did mention earlier that, the emotions,
they don't feel
human beings
comfortable
being
with it.
so emotional, they can pick up on that, and that makes them feel uncomfortable.
They don't understand it, and so it's easier just to tap us out, because you can't rationalize with an irrational person. And the ones that were here